of his age, he was only early 40s. You know, he had over 200 criminal convictions against his name.
Looking back over his record and seeing the offending that he'd undertaken, I knew that he was someone that we needed to take seriously when we started this investigation. I think his first conviction was when he was 11 years old for a burglary.
This person was a career criminal. There's no two ways about it. This is what this person's life was.
G'day, mate. There's a pack of cigarettes away.
I want the fucking money too. Right now, get it. Now! All of it. Hurry up, all of it. Now, on the ground. Hey, get on the ground. Hey. Lucky I don't slice you up.
On September 26, 2015, a local convenience store in Willagee, a suburb of Perth, was held up at knife point in broad daylight.
Police emergency?
Yeah, I just got robbed in the shop.
So what happened? Is it a male or female?
Yeah, it's a male with a knife.
This terrifying robbery would mark the beginning of a brutal rampage across Perth by one of the city's most notorious criminals. For Detective Sergeant Wayne Davies and Detective Senior Constable Jared Doherty, it was the start of one of the most remarkable manhunts in Western Australian history.
I opened up this report this particular day, and there'd been an armed robbery in some suburbs of Perth.
It's a convenience store.
In what town or suburb?
Willagee.
This offender had gone into this store. He had not tried to disguise himself in any way.
And sir, could you give me a description of the male?
It's white. It looks about 40, medium height.
And I personally thought, God, we're going to have this wrapped up before the end of the shift. We'll have this guy and we're going to wrap it up and we'll charge him, and this would be great.
Because this violent offender made the job of IDing him easy for police.
Yeah, he took the money. I don't know how much.
Out of the cash?
The whole lot.
The entire crime was captured on this closed-circuit television.
And so I got it in the camera.
You've got CCTV?
Yeah.
Clearly showing the weapon he used.
Hurry up!
But it was not covering his face that was the worry for police.
Was he wearing anything over his face?
No, he didn't.
That's always a concern because it shows the person just really has no regard for the actions that they're undertaking and what they're doing and what their state of mind is. It was the red flag for us to that person's mindset and what their state of mind is.
And he left in what vehicle?
Toyota Land Cruiser.
There was a vehicle of interest. There was a registration number obtained of the four-wheel drive.
It's the old model. It's sort of greenish blue.
We identified that the vehicle used was a vehicle that had been reported stolen. So we went back to that person and obviously spoke to them.
And the owner had a pretty good idea who took his car. It was someone he was helping out. A crim with a famous alias and a rap sheet a mile long. 42-year-old lifelong felon, Brett Lindsay Capper, a.k.a. the Porsche Kid.
By the time Brett Lindsay Capper turned 18, he'd already notched up an extensive criminal record. And just after his 18th birthday, Capper embarked on a car theft spree, stealing 5 cars.
The name rang a bell. I didn't know Brett Capper, but I knew the Porsche Kid.
It was during July and August when police encountered a seemingly endless list of car thefts and high-speed chases involving top-of-the-range cars. In all, more than $1.25 million worth of Jags, Hondas and Porsches were stolen.
And one of the Porsches belonged to a radio presenter in Perth, and obviously that got quite a bit of media attention that this radio presenter's Porsche was stolen, and Brett Capper was found in possession of that Porsche, so he got given the name the Porsche Kid.
So Detective Davies and Detective Doherty looked deeper into Brett Capper's background, and what they discovered was a dark past.
For someone who, of his age, he was only early 40s, you know, he had over 200 criminal convictions against his name, which is a lot of convictions. Most prolific offenders, and that may have sort of like 60, 70, up to 100, but when someone starts hitting 200 criminal convictions, you think that's a lot.
He was someone who had a lot of interaction with police from a very young age.
Capper was said to have had a brutalised childhood and was fending for himself on the streets by the age of 13.
Going back into his background, he's been convicted for like 10 armed robberies. There's been a numerous escapes, plus burglary offences, car chases, and obviously all the Porsche matters as well. You start getting a little bit of insight to this, is that is his life, you know, he knows no other.
And this time round, Capper had been out of prison for just 10 months, after serving 8 years for armed robbery.
So we knew that most of his life, especially his adult life, had basically been in prison. There's only been a few like minor stints out of prison, but the rest of it had been in prison itself.
Looking back over his record and seeing the offending that he'd undertaken, I knew that he was someone that we needed to take seriously.
With the getaway car plates now in circulation with the Highway Patrol, police were sure he would come up on the radar soon. So detectives started looking into his more recent movements.
So we've got the registration number of the car. We then go through our traffic branch as such and use their intel to ascertain if this vehicle's gone through any speed cameras, red light cameras and locations. What it gives us is, it obviously gives us a time frame of where that person was, and then we sort of maybe get an idea as to where they might be staying.
There were no hits with the licence plates, but they did discover that since Capper had been out of prison, he'd been working for a mate.
He had a job, did a labouring job, but seemed to be going okay. But then things changed. He then borrowed this car and he never brought it back, and basically that's the last time this person ever saw him.
And looking into his profile, they knew what he was capable of.
You have to really try and get to know the person that you are trying to track down. I mean, past behaviour is a huge predictor of what they may get up to in the future.
We knew that he had been problems with drugs before in the past. We believed then, especially after we sort of spoke to a few people, that there's a strong possibility that he's gone back onto drugs and taking drugs.
Police were now concerned that the brazen robbery had been fuelled by Capper's need for drugs.
He's desperate for money because he needs to buy or wants to buy drugs with that money.
And knowing his history, another attack was only a matter of time.
We need to get hold of this guy fast before he does something really, really bad.
And just 4.5 hours after his first hold-up, Capper was about to strike again.
This time Capper's gone in with a note saying that this was an armed robbery and that he was armed, and to hand over the money.
Hurry up. On the ground!
We hadn't really expected him to offend again so quickly.
He seemed to have no issue showing who he was. There was no disguise, and we identified Brett Capper straight away.
The young shopkeeper escaped unharmed.
We want this guy locked up. We want him locked up now before anything else happens.
But police were worried that the next victim wouldn't be so lucky. Brett Lindsay Capper, also known as the Porsche Kid, was on a violent rampage. He had hit 2 convenience stores within hours of each other and then vanished. But police were certain he would resurface soon.
Something's seriously wrong. He wants money that badly that he's willing to go into these stores undisguised.
An habitual offender from the age of 11, police are certain he will strike again.
You know, he always gets drawn back to that criminal element and committing offences and getting by that way. We knew that he had problems with drugs before in the past, and we believe that the drug habit come back about, and he started taking illicit drugs.
It was methamphetamine that was his drug of addiction.
And it was clear that Capper was desperate.
We need to stop him, because if we don't stop him, he will hurt police officers or the general public.
But the Porsche Kid hadn't been spotted for 3 days, even though every police officer in the city was on the lookout.
We were looking everywhere, and nothing come about.
Police were convinced he was getting help from his criminal mates.
He had numerous criminal associates, and we knew that he could be at any one of them. We'll start going around to his associates.
Hello?
And we're putting pressure on these people.
My name's Detective Wayne Davies.
It makes a person like him hard to track down because he just hops from one house to another to another.
But on day 4, Capper came up for air in Beachborough. Armed with an axe, he decided to pay some friends a visit and dispense a bit of Capper love.
He was in the eastern suburbs of Perth, and he's gone to an address and looking to recover some money from a debt.
And true to form, the Porsche Kid was spiralling out of control.
Sir! Stay out, mate! We haven't got nothing for you! Leave us alone! Where's the money? We haven't got nothing, mate! I said open it, didn't I? All right. Sir, come here! Help! Where is it?
Hearing the screams, a terrified neighbour called 000. And this is the actual emergency call audio.
Emergency services, how can I help you?
Yeah, we just noticed there's a lot of yelling and screaming inside the house, and I could actually see them going through the house with an axe.
Where's the money? I don't have your money! 500. You and your boyfriend robbed me. Where is it? What? No! Leave us alone!
For them, it's extremely confronting, where they believed that obviously he was going to attack them with this axe.
Somewhere in here.
It's just the level of violence that Brett used in relation to that with the axe. That was a real escalation in his behaviour.
He's then gone through the house and he's ended up grabbing a backpack, which obviously he presumed would have had some form of, would not have drugs or money inside, which he could use.
Should I just smash your head, right? After everything we've been through. See you later.
Is there like a particular car at the front, or a dark coloured car in the driveway?
The thing that gave the third attack away was the same vehicle was used again. So still with the same four-wheel drive.
Capper had shot through before police arrived. But he was in for a nasty shock. The backpack had absolutely nothing in it.
We quickly identified that he was after more money for more drugs and he just wasn't getting it.
And with his attacks getting ever more violent, they needed him captured.
We were really concerned that there was going to be another offence quite quickly after that last one.
And just as they predicted, less than 2 hours later and 45 kilometres from his last attack, the Porsche Kid would strike again.
He was just basically on a rampage for as long as he could to get as much money as he could to buy all the drugs that he could.
this isn't going to stop now. This is just going to get worse and worse.
Addicted to ice and desperate for cash, Brett, the Porsche Kid capper, was 4 days into a brutal crime spree and about to strike again.
Give me the money now. I said get around and get the money.
Our worst fears came true when he's gone into another convenience store and threatened the workers in there with an axe. He tried to smash open the till with it too.
Get around now.
One of the workers fought back and he left empty-handed, as it happens.
Curiously, he let himself be chased away by only a mop. But no cash meant no drugs.
For us, it was escalating, and we believe that this isn't going to stop now. This is just going to get worse and worse. Not only for himself, but obviously it's going to affect us, and it's going to affect the actual public as well.
Being on drugs, it was out of control. We need to get hold of this guy fast before he does something really, really bad.
To date, every police officer in Western Australia had been sent photos of both Kappa and the car, to no avail. Detectives drastically needed another approach.
Now we need to get out to the general public, so we need to go and do a media broadcast.
42-year-old Kappa is described as being 180 centimetres tall.
Given the escalation in his offending, we really didn't have any choice but to put that out to the wider community.
Armed with an axe and knife, police say Kappa terrorised staff at supermarkets in Willagee, Dawesville and Yangebup. He's also wanted for a violent home invasion in Beachborough last night.
I think it's better to, even if it jeopardised our job to some degree.
They either see Mr. Kappa himself or the vehicle to contact Crime Stoppers or the local police.
If we go to the media with this stolen car, then it puts it all over the media and we might get someone to say, yeah, we've seen this car.
He's driving a blue and silver 1995 Toyota Land Cruiser.
Whilst he had that car, we had half a chance. We knew if he's got that car, we eventually will find him.
But Kappa was one step ahead of them.
It wasn't long after we did that he did dump that vehicle, and it was located down in Mandurah. There was evidence inside that vehicle that again proved that we were on the right track. What Brett Kappa was in that vehicle and was using that vehicle, so we were pleased in that regard, pleased to have him out of a vehicle.
But that meant he needed another one. And armed with a syringe, he struck again. Carjacking another four-wheel drive in broad daylight.
Right, get out the car now. Shoot up before.
He points a syringe at her and threatens her.
Get out.
And he says something along the lines of, don't look at me, because if you do, I'll stab you with a syringe.
Another serious offence, another member of the public's been traumatised.
The foster mum to 7 children wants to protect her identity.
I kind of smiled at first because I thought it must have been somebody that I knew.
But it wasn't until police showed this photo she realised she'd just come face to face with one of WA's most wanted men, Brett Lindsay Kappa. He was released from jail in November after more than a decade behind bars.
Now we know he's driving around in this Land Cruiser four-wheel drive. How are we going to stop him now?
He is somewhere in the Mandurah area, we knew that. So we deployed as many resources as we could into those major arterial roads around Mandurah, just to try and track him down, just to see if he would come past one of the cameras that would recognise the stolen number plate.
And in the early hours of the following morning, they finally got a lucky break.
Is come about 1 o'clock in the morning, one of the traffic police vehicles spots the car in the southern suburbs of Perth.
Mate, we believe we got Kappa inside.
The chase was on for the Porsche Kid.
We're on Ramford Road heading westbound in Champion Lakes. Our speed's 100 and increasing.
Remarkably, Kappa had never held a driver's license. Police had to stop him before someone was killed. Had to stop him before someone was killed. After 7 days on the run, Western Australia's most wanted, Brett Kappa, aka the Porsche Kid, had finally been clocked by police south of Perth.
Hangar 0220. Mate, we believe we've got Kappa in sight. We're on Ramford Road heading westbound.
And the chase was on.
We need to stop this car. It's Brett Kappa's in this car. We need to stop it.
Knew it!
Just confirm you believe it's Kappa. He's driving that Land Cruiser 1ECU 654. Yeah, roger, mate. That's definitely him. Roger, probably pursuit's being authorised.
And with confirmation that it was definitely Kappa, every available police car moves in.
Priority pursuit, class 1 vehicle. Roger, priority pursuit is authorised. Just acknowledge priority pursuit.
Everyone is going to that area. Now you've got the primary vehicle, which is the traffic vehicle, which is pursuing Kappa.
We've got the cars, but look out, be careful. Vehicle may be in possession of Brett Kappa. It's a 2013 Toyota Land Cruiser station sedan.
And there's numerous cars involved. We've got traffic cars, we've got local uniform cars involved, local detective cars, we've got our cars from Regional Investigations Unit. So in all, there's about 15 cars involved.
140 our speed, heading towards Champion Drive. He's pulling away slowly.
And we didn't have air wing available, so we didn't have air wing above, which can obviously monitor the vehicle.
We are only approximately 200 metres off his tail.
We wasn't in a position where we could do roadblocks and that with our vehicles because Kappa was driving the Land Cruiser. We knew that he wouldn't stop and he would just plough through our cars.
It's a dangerous position to be in, trying to chase another car in a metropolitan area. And there's a lot of risk factors that you have to take into consideration.
Think!
And those risks were escalating to both officers and the public.
We are getting to the stage. We know we've got to stop this guy. We knew Stingers was the best way.
Stingers are portable road spikes used to puncture tyres.
Roger, if they've got any cars, Stingers start heading the general area, you've got P2 to get there.
Roger, Mike 453, we're sitting at the corner of Repair Rear, but a Stinger on board, priority pursuit driver.
0182, the Stinger is deployed.
We can get basically in front of him, then we can put the Stingers down, and if he tries to turn around, we put the Stingers behind him.
We have 2 Stingers both sides of the highway, I repeat.
Kappa, however, simply ploughed off the road and drove around them.
Never get me, come on!
We're on Armadale Road at the intersection of Tonga, looks like he's coming this way.
He could see that the police were where the police were and the police vehicles were, and he obviously guessed that there'd be Stingers on the road. So he was going around these two vague police. You know, you don't get a name, I suppose, like the Porsche Kid, and that if you can't drive a car.
Unsuccessful Stinger.
At certain points, Kappa's going at speeds of 160 kilometres an hour along these roads.
Our main concern was just not to have any member of the public put at risk in trying to apprehend him. His manner of driving was just out of control, going on the wrong side of the road.
With this being this V8, could just basically just go off the road. It was just bouncing over the road into bushland.
Get that up, yeah!
Yeah, big guy, no, he looks like he's heading northeast bound now, mate.
We knew that he wouldn't stop.
Yeah, big guy, we've downgraded, he's still heading southwest bound. Lights are on.
The risk had reached a critical level.
Yeah, Roger. Yeah, big guy, Tango 0220, please abort.
After 95 minutes, the chase was terminated.
The chase had finished and Brett had actually slipped through and got away again after that chase.
Yeah, roger, uniform 0101. They got a Tango 0220, can you still see him?
No, negative, mate. We kind of lost it when we couldn't keep up.
Yeah, roger, tell.
He was posing sort of unacceptable risks that we're not willing to take in relation to apprehending someone like him.
Confirm you're downgraded. Roger, lost visual.
Unfortunately, it happened. There's nothing we could do about it then. We thought, right, start again.
So once again, Kappa was gone.
Him retaining that car obviously gives us some level of contact with him because it's something we can keep a lookout for. It was quite a distinctive car.
But Kappa was one step ahead of them, dumping the car early that morning, cunningly putting police on a false trail.
Although, you know, he was on drugs, he's still a pretty smart character in relation to how he went about things, and he was someone who was aware of the way we do things as well, having had a lot of contact with police, so that makes it even harder.
Next morning, 6 o'clock in the morning, I get a phone call. Car's been recovered in Armadale, another southern suburb of Perth. So from 6 o'clock when it was dumped, we hadn't had a report of a car being stolen in Armadale, so there's a chance he's on foot or he's hiding out in a house in Armadale somewhere. We spent all day driving around that area, going through numerous houses. Unfortunately, we couldn't find him. At that stage, we were physically drained. Been going on for a week and a bit. We've hardly had any sleep because we're constantly looking for Kappa. Every time I got home, the phone was ringing, and it was ringing constantly. You know, you got an hour or two sleep, and then you'd be back, and you'd be going again looking for him.
Have you seen anything suspicious at all?
Desperate that we've got to find him. We've got to stop this.
Police had no idea that Brett had already stolen another four-wheel drive. And every minute, he was getting further away from where they were searching. Brett, the Porsche Kid Kappa, had managed to evade police after a high-speed pursuit through the southern suburbs of Perth.
Get that up here!
Police gave chase but lost sight along Southwestern Highway in Byford. The stolen car found abandoned in Armadale this morning.
And for police, the trail had gone cold. A dumped car meant they had no way of tracking him.
We're back to square one. Kappa doesn't have a car. And if he does, we don't know what car he's got.
But Kappa did have a car, and he was back on the road.
Place the street.
Yeah. So we're the team solely working to try and find Kappa. We'd spent the whole week, 24/7, just chasing him around. Now we start going around to his criminal associates. We know who these people are.
The theory was that by putting pressure on Kappa's dodgy mates, the word would soon find its way back to him.
They were becoming a little bit paranoid as well, thinking, well, are the police watching me? So they become a little bit more receptive to assist us in that way.
It worked. Somehow, Kappa got the word.
I had the Saturday night off.
Here you go, buddy. Thank you.
I was actually going to a soccer presentation, and at 8 o'clock, the phone rings. Comes up like no caller ID, and I'm thinking, oh, here we go again, it's work. So I went outside into the car park, and I pick up the phone. Jack, Detective Davies. And I said, yeah. And I said, who's this? And he goes, Brett. And I said, Brett? I said, well, Brett Kappa. And he went, yeah, it's me. You've been trying to find me. And there was no way we could identify that phone number. And he says, I'm not staying on the phone for long because I know you'll be trying to trace my call. Well, I'm not, because I'm stuck in the middle of a car park. And I said, oh, you've obviously got my card as well. And he said, yeah, someone gave me that card and I've rung you to stop putting pressure on these people. It's not them.
The only person that Brett could turn to was the very man that was hunting him down.
I said, look, why are you doing all this? He goes, I'm not in a very good place at the moment. I'm back on like taking drugs.
Okay, well...
He was very paranoid because he constantly said, I know you're trying to track me. I know you'll be trying to track my call. I'm going to hang up soon. But he never did.
And over the 40-minute phone call, Brett Kappa's tragic life story unfolded.
He goes, I'm not proud of what I've done, like the life I've chosen, like the career criminal that I am as such. He goes, I'm not a bad guy, but I just do bad things. And I said, obviously you've got the nickname, the Porsche Kid. He said, it wasn't just me. It was a big group of kids. Because I wasn't the leader of them in any way, shape or form. I was one of the younger ones. Because I got caught in the car, that's how I got given the name, the Porsche Kid. You know, and I don't think he liked that name. Criminals as such would, you know, put him on a bit of a pedestal because of that was the name he was. I was just a Porsche Kid. Then we started getting round to the fact of like, how you been keeping? And he says, oh, how do you think I'm keeping? I said, I don't think you're keeping very well.
It was clear that Kappa was at the end of his rope, surviving only by breaking into houses to steal food and catch some sleep.
And then he said, now I've been living, he goes, I was living in the back of the four-wheel drives. He goes, that's why I took four-wheel drives, because I could live in the back of them. I got the understanding, right, he's got another vehicle, but I don't know what vehicle he's got.
But the conversation was about to take a dark turn.
And he goes, I know that you guys are running hard for me. I know you're not going to give up. And I said, well, yeah, because you know that and we know that. It's never going to stop. And so until we get you. He says, yeah, but I'll let you know now, you won't take me alive. And this is one of the worst scenarios, I suppose, for us as police, when people say that and you think of like death by police. He's, you know, basically he's going to be like some form of shootout, or he's going to try to attack police and force them to take action to stop him. I said, what do you mean? And he said, look, I'm going to take my life prior to you guys getting me.
So for this desperate fugitive, life back inside wasn't an option.
I said, imagine, I said, if your body's not found for a number of weeks or a number of months, do you understand that? And he goes, yes, I do. I don't want that. And so I said to him, well, so look, how about this? You contact me just prior to you taking your life and tell me your location.
Before you do it, you just tell us where you are. If we come and collect your body, that's got to be much better than what you've got planned, Brad.
Give yourself that dignity, Brad.
So with that, he says, that's a good idea. He goes, I like that. I said, I'm glad you like that. He goes, right, can you do me a couple of favours then? I've got a phone, but on my phone is a number of photographs of myself and my son. Will you make sure my son gets that phone camera? I said, look, I will do that for you. He goes, look, thank you very much. And then eventually said, right, I'm going to go.
It's been good to talk to you, okay?
I said, but remember, I said, this has got to stop. This can't go on.
That phone call gave police an insight into Kappa's state of mind, revealing a man that was fractured and even more unpredictable.
Due to the nature of this person and the history he has with police, then yeah, he's not to be approached.
Cut off from his contacts, he was out of options.
I mean, he'd been on the run for quite a long time now. He hadn't been successful in getting any money. I felt that at that point we would get him fairly soon.
And late in the afternoon, after 9 days on the run, Brett Kappa finally surfaced for air.
So we get a phone call from a person.
You right there, mate?
They've pulled up. They see this guy by the side of the road by this car.
Shit itself. Give you a ride? Yeah. Beautiful, mate. Thanks so much. Hop in.
And the guy's going, yeah, I've just run out of petrol. And they said, would you like a lift anywhere? And he says, oh, can you take me to a phone box?
This Good Samaritan had no idea he'd just picked up Western Australia's most wanted criminal. Nine days into a terrifying crime spree, fortune was finally turning for Brett the Porsche Kid Kappa.
Give you a ride? Beautiful, mate. Thanks so much. Always, hop in.
Running out of petrol meant he was now vulnerable, but so was the Good Samaritan that picked him up.
It's a dangerous position to be in.
Gets in the car and the guy's driving into the phone box and he's looking at him and he's thinking, I recognise this guy from somewhere, but I don't know where.
So, how's this, all right?
This is terrific.
Yeah.
Thank you. Like I said, yeah, you're a lifesaver.
This guy's put two and two together and he goes, oh, that's that guy the police are looking for. So we get a phone call from a person saying, look, I think the guy named Brett, who the police are looking for, is down in the southern suburbs. I think it's him. I've just dropped him off.
The description that the witness gave, it was spot on. We were confident that was Brett Kappa.
Other cars can start heading to that general area.
Knowing Brett was trapped on foot in the semi-rural area of Baldivis, 50 k's south of Perth, police swooped in.
Our guys just headed off down there.
Echo Kilo 102 heading your way.
We had air wing, we had up this time. We had our K9 units in place and we had everyone heading down, going south, this bushland area.
Tango Sierra 220, can you get P1 to the area, please?
Finally, the net was closing.
Yeah, 182, so we'll head towards that direction if you give us PT.
Obviously, we know he hasn't got a car because he was stood by a car and the guys gave him a lift. So now we're just looking for a person, not a vehicle. So that's why it makes it even harder, especially if it's in dense bushland as such.
You know, he's a pretty wily sort of character. He was always going to be a hard target. He was always going to be someone that was going to be hard to catch.
Hiding in the thick scrub, Brett was surrounded, but impossible to see.
We've got the area, this is it, we've got it covered, because we know he's got to be in that bush, there's nowhere else he could be. And we don't know whether or not Kappa's putting his sort of like booby traps down or anything like that. Anything could be in place if he's been standing there for quite some time.
Two that way. We don't know his arms, so we're going to take it easy.
This is a massive, massive area, so there's covers galore covering the whole area.
So we're going to spread out in a straight line, keep 1 to 2 metres spacing from each other. We don't know if he's got anything on him. All right.
And the cover of night was once again in Kappa's favour.
Air wings over the top, goes over, doesn't see anything, can't see anyone. And going, look, don't know where this person may be.
Yeah, Roger, we got a Tango Kilo 117, can you see him?
Yeah, can't find him.
I'm sitting there thinking, oh, he slipped the net again. How much luck has this guy had?
But Brett's luck was coming to an end. Police were determined to flush him out.
Police dog Rumble turns up and the handler gets Rumble out. Obviously the dog handler has obviously got some concerns releasing the dog into the bushland unknown, especially at night, and knowing someone who's got weapons or knives and axes and stuff like that which he's used. And basically a command's given.
Red Kappa, this is the police. You are surrounded. 30 seconds or we release the dog.
And out of nowhere, Kappa played the only card he had left.
All of a sudden, this guy walks out of the brush and just tries to walk across the other side of the road.
Kappa, get down on the ground! Down on the ground! Get down on the ground! Down on the ground!
He told me later that he did see the police and he heard the dog, and he said he was just done. He said I'd been on the run for nearly 2 weeks. The threat of the dog was enough for him to come out.
That was it. He was arrested at that point.
Finally, one of the most intense manhunts in Western Australian history was over.
And I thought, thank God for that. We've got him. Finally got him.
He was exhausted. He was absolutely exhausted.
He was in a hell of a state. He hadn't eaten properly. He hadn't washed for a good 10 days as such. So he was at the end of the tether. He really was. He'd got to that extreme, like trying to survive, knowing full well though that everywhere, every corner he looked, the police were around, the police were there.
The Porsche kid was back in custody and back in the place that he had spent most of his adult life. But his story wasn't over.
We get him back, and like I say, it was that mutual respect coming. I introduced myself. I said, I'm the one you spoke to last night. And we had a bit of a chuckle about that. And he goes, oh, you're one, David. So yeah, and shook me hand. And then we went and interviewed him.
We spent over an hour interviewing Brett about all these offences. So he was very open with us. He didn't try and hide any of his offending.
Brett went on to confess openly to his crimes and even appeared to be remorseful for his actions.
He wasn't obviously always bad. I mean, he spent a lot of time in jail, but he wasn't, he was still close to some of his family, and they still, loved him as one of their family members, but what he was up to and his lifestyle really didn't fit with their values, I guess. He had a partner, estranged, though he was estranged from, but he had a young boy as well, so he was a father himself.